Hello there and welcome to the show, and today I'm going to be talking about AEW Revolution. Revolution 2025 was the 6th overall edition of Revolution held by AEW, as well as their first proper pay-per-view for 2025. This was supposed to be their 3rd pay-per-view of the year. However, they barely did any promotion for Wrestle Dynasty. I believe they just mentioned it once in passing on commentary, and Grand Slam Australia became a glorified episode of Collision because of poor ticket sales. And do not let Tony Khan fool you. Grand Slam Australia was supposed to be a pay-per-view, and Tony Khan, the excuses that this man has come up with, it was always supposed to be an episode of Collision. You're not booking a 50,000 seat arena for Collision. It was supposed to be a pay-per-view. Tony Khan and AEW scammed every single person that attended Grand Slam Australia. It should be renamed Grand Scam Australia. In any case, Revolution. For the past couple of years, Revolution has been a very good show that's produced some of the best matches of the year. This year, this is the least interested I was for Revolution, but I was hoping that the wrestling would at least be good because AEW is where the best wrestle. Let's talk about it. Revolution took place on March 9th, 2025 at the Crypto.com Arena in Los Angeles, California. Had an attendance of over 11,000 people, and the show started off with MJF versus Hangman Adam Page. These two have had a pretty solid story on AEW television, one of the very few stories that AEW has been telling on TV. Hangman wasn't really a big fan of his direction coming out of the steel cage match from All Out. He has felt directionless for a bit. MJF, it looks like the Adam Cole feud is behind us, which I am very thankful for. MJF has been building up a feud with Hangman. Their back and forth on Dynamite has been very good. I've really enjoyed their interactions backstage and in the ring. There is history between MJF and Hangman, the Casino Battle Royal from the very first Double or Nothing, the very first Dynamite Diamond Ring match. MJF came out first. He played Hangman's old theme, but then it transitioned into his theme song. This was an incredible match between MJF and Hangman. This was a great back and forth. The story in this match was MJF moving out of the way, avoiding the buckshot lariat, and using Hangman's own anger against him. Because Hangman, he retired Christopher Daniels in that Texas death match, and MJF, one of the lines he told Hangman, "You don't have the stomach for it." So that storyline played out pretty well in this match. MJF used Hangman's own momentum. Hangman ran shoulder first into the steel steps. MJF locked in Salt of the Earth, but Hangman made it to the ropes. MJF hit a pile driver on a chair on the outside of the ring. That was beautiful. Hangman made it back into the ring by the 9 count, and MJF broke down. He was yelling, "Why not me?" to the crowd. Hangman countered a heat seeker into the Deadeye, and then he hit an Angel's Wings, a vicious looking Angel's Wings at that. It looked like MJF landed right on his head. That was one of the most brutal things I have ever seen. And following the Angel's Wings, Hangman hit a buckshot lariat for the win. Hangman defeats MJF, and this was a very good opening match. I really enjoyed the story between MJF and Hangman. They managed to tell a very good story and produce a very good match. I really enjoyed this match. This was a very good opener. I really enjoyed this match. This was a very good opening match. Mercedes Moné versus Momo Watanabe for the TBS Championship. Momo won a tournament to earn this opportunity. There was a Meteora powerbomb combination on the floor that was very good. Moné hit a beautiful looking Meteora. Moneymaker and a bank statement for the win. Mercedes Moné retains the TBS Championship. No surprise there. During this match, they showed Billy Starks from Ring of Honor taking notes. Big fan of Billy Starks. She is a great wrestler. Had a great match against Athena at Final Battle. That was an incredible match about 2 years ago in 2023. This match between Momo and Mercedes was fine. Nothing overly special. Mercedes isn't losing the TBS Championship. As a matter of fact, I am predicting that Mercedes Moné is going to break Jade Cargill's TBS Championship reign. The TBS Championship has no value. Mercedes Moné's AEW run, we're a year into this run now, and frankly, a year in, and I am disappointed in Mercedes' AEW run. Number 1 contenders match. The winner of this match would face either Adam Copeland or Jon Moxley for the AEW World Championship at Dynasty. Swerve Strickland versus Ricochet. I've really enjoyed the program between Swerve and Ricochet coming out of World's End. Ricochet got booed out of the building when he made his entrance. "You are bald" chants by the AEW crowd. Loved it. There was a moment on the outside where Swerve shoved Nana and Nana left the ringside area. Ricochet hit a house call off the barricade. That was great. Swerve dropped Ricochet on the announce table. That was a brutal looking spot. It looked great. Swerve stomped for a 2 count. Ricochet hit 630. That got him a 2 count. Nana returned to ringside. He stole the robe. Ricochet then hit a dive on Nana, and then Ricochet confronted Dr. Ken Jeong, who was in attendance. We got 2 house calls by Swerve that got a 2 count, and then big pressure by Swerve for the win. Swerve Strickland is the number 1 contender for the AEW World Championship. He is challenging for the championship at Dynasty. Full circle moment because he won the World Championship at Dynasty last year from Samoa Joe. This was the outcome I was expecting, just given the history of Dynasty and its connection to Swerve. I've enjoyed the program between Swerve and Ricochet. I really enjoyed this match. To me, this was a very good match, one of the best matches of the night. Up until this point, to me, this was match of the night. I enjoyed this match more than MJF Hangman. This was a very good match between these two, and I really enjoyed it. Kazuchika Okada versus Brody King. This was for the AEW Continental Championship. Brody King received this match because he is from Los Angeles. This was his hometown. Kazuchika Okada, he's gonna rack up more defenses before going into All In, where he will face Kenny Omega, and I'll talk more about that when I get to the International Championship match. Okada was taunting Brody King. He was doing the bark that got a laugh from the crowd. Brody King, he hit some devastating looking chops. Brody King's chops looked vicious. Okada hit a DDT on the outside. Brody hit a superplex. Okada hit a top rope elbow. Brody King hit a Death Valley driver and cannonball. Okada hit the running dropkick. Okada has one of the best dropkicks in all of pro wrestling. Okada then hit Brody with the Continental Championship belt that got him a 2 count. And then finally Okada hit a Rainmaker for the win. He retains the Continental Championship. No surprise there. Okada is not losing this championship until we get to All In. This was a fine match between Okada and King. I mean, they're both very good wrestlers. This was a fine match, nothing overly spectacular. The Hurt Syndicate, Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin with MVP versus the Outrunners, Turbo Floyd and Truth Magnum for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. The Hurt Syndicate beat Private Party, more accurately buried Private Party, to become the new AEW World Tag Team Champions, which was a surprise to no one. Hurt Syndicate has been one of the more well-received acts in AEW recently. Private Party were already buried when they won the championship, so I wasn't expecting them to have a very long reign to begin with. The Outrunners beat the Murder Machines, Lance Archer and Brian Cage, to become the number 1 contenders. The Outrunners took control early on over Shelton Benjamin. Then a brawl happened where all 4 of them brawled. Hurt Syndicate took control. Turbo Floyd botched the hot tag. Lashley hit a double spear on both Outrunners at the same time. Enziguri spear combination on both Turbo and Truth for the win. The Hurt Syndicate retained the World Tag Team Championships. No surprise there. This match felt like it should have happened in the middle of an episode of Dynamite or Collision. This didn't really feel like it should have been on Revolution. The outcome, I mean, no surprise like I mentioned. Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin just became the World Tag Team Champions, and they weren't losing them to the Outrunners. This match existed, and what happened on Dynamite following Revolution with MVP and MJF, that was a very good promo, and I'm excited to see where that leads and how MJF is going to be involved with the Hurt Syndicate. So that's what I'm excited for coming out of this. Toni Storm versus Mariah May, the Hollywood ending for the AEW Women's World Championship. Basically a false count anywhere match. I've loved the story between Storm and May. It's been built up beautifully, and I've really enjoyed the story and the back and forth between Storm and Mariah. This match was built up very well. Toni Storm regained the AEW Women's World Championship at Grand Slam Australia in the main event. This match started off exactly how it should have. Brawl during Toni Storm's entrance, low blow and dropkick on Luther by Mariah May. He was taken out of this match. Running sky high off the stage through a table by Toni Storm. That was great. One of the best spots of the entire night. Toni hit a draping DDT off the barricade. May hit Storm Zero on the steps. Toni Storm was bleeding at this point. Both women brought out buckets of glass and tape, and they taped their hands, dipped it in the bucket, so now their hands are covered in glass, and they were attempting to punch each other. Toni Storm was able to land a punch on Mariah May. Somewhere CM Punk was losing his mind over this. Mariah May uses a champagne bottle on Toni Storm. Mayday on the broken glass. That looked painful. Following this, Toni Storm, she looked like something out of a horror movie. The use of blood in this match was very impactful, and it played well with the story that both women were telling, because this is a blood feud, legitimately. The best story AEW had leading into Revolution. Storm Zero on a chair by Toni, that got her a 2 count. Toni attacked May with the Women's Championship belt. Mayday on the stage for a 2 count, and then Toni Storm uses the shoe that started all of this. And then Storm Zero threw a table on the stage for the win. Toni Storm wins the match. She retains the AEW Women's World Championship. A great trilogy of matches by Storm and Mariah. Right outcome, great match, great story. This legitimately is, to me, one of the 2 best matches of the night. From a storytelling perspective, this was no doubt the best story of the night, and from an in-ring perspective, one of the 2 best matches of the night. I loved everything about this, the story, the pacing, the way the match played out. This was great. I love this. This was incredible, and massive respect to both Toni Storm and Mariah May. Both women worked incredibly during this match. Konosuke Takeshita versus Kenny Omega for the AEW International Championship. Kenny Omega, of course, made his proper return to AEW in January. For some reason, has resumed this feud with Don Callis instead of going after the Elite. These two had a great match at All Out in 2023. I thought that was a very good match. Kenny hit a chop to the back. Takeshita hit a shoulder tackle. Kenny hit a springboard crossbody to the outside. Takeshita hit a DDT that got him a 2 count. Don Callis attacked Kenny Omega on the outside. He sold this brilliantly. He went back to commentary and he was saying that his hand was hurt from attacking Kenny Omega, so I got a laugh out of that. Don Callis is great. Kenny missed a crossbody attempt. Takeshita hit the kitchen sink. Omega hit the dunk on the apron. That was great. Kenny went for You Can't Escape on the outside, but Takeshita shoved him off the barricade and he hit the other barricade. Great counter. Omega made it back into the ring by the 8 count, which I was very grateful for. He didn't go up to 9, so it looks like Tony Khan is listening to some of the criticism. Takeshita then immediately hits a brainbuster that gets him a 2 count. Omega hits You Can't Escape. Omega went for the Terminator dive, but Don Callis stopped it. Takeshita hit a released German suplex on the outside. That was great. Takeshita set up a table earlier in the match. Kenny flipped it and the crowd booed because wrestling fans, we love ourselves some tables. Takeshita then dropped Kenny Omega on the table. Takeshita then flipped the table on its side and dropped Kenny on the side of the table. In the ring, Takeshita hits 2 sentons. Kenny counters the 3rd one. Takeshita goes for a top rope senton, but Kenny counters that. Omega hits a dragon suplex. Takeshita punched the stomach. Commentary team sold the diverticulitis. Omega hit a V-trigger, powerbomb, and another V-trigger. Solid combination of moves. Takeshita then counters a V-trigger into the Blue Thunder Bomb. That was great. Takeshita hits a running kick. Takeshita then clotheslines Kenny off the top rope to the outside. Omega then hits a springboard sunset powerbomb for a 2 count. That was a phenomenal move by Kenny Omega. Great to see Kenny Omega back. Legitimately one of the best wrestlers in the world. Omega hits a V-trigger. Great series of counters. Takeshita then hit 2 power drive knees. Kenny Omega kicked out at 1. Omega hit a pile driver that got him a 2 count. Takeshita then caught a knee, hit a forearm shot. Kenny then landed the knee. Kenny Omega hit Poison Rana and a V-trigger. They counter finishers. Kenny went for the One-Winged Angel. Takeshita went for Raging Fire. They counter, and then they trade roll-ups back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then finally, Kenny gets the 3 count off a roll-up and becomes the new international champion. This was a very good match. Can't say I was overly invested in the story, but this was a very good match. Kenny Omega winning the International Championship is something that I had predicted in one of my previous videos when I talked about the Continental Classic, and I mentioned that Kenny Omega becoming the International Champion is a strong possibility because at All In, it is going to be Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada. It is going to be champion versus champion, title versus title, and Tony Khan is going to introduce the AEW Intercontinental Championship at All In. I don't agree with it, but it's what he's gonna do. I predicted it in my video about the Continental Classic, but I'm doubling down on it now. This was a very good match. Kenny Omega and Konosuke Takeshita are 2 of the best wrestlers in the world, so this wasn't going to be a bad match. This was a very good match from an in-ring standpoint. The story just wasn't there for me. Finish, little weak in my opinion. That being said, this was a very good match and I enjoyed it. Personally, I thought their match at All Out was better than this, but this was a very good match nonetheless. Predictable outcome, but very good match nonetheless. Steel cage match. Will Ospreay versus Kyle Fletcher. This feud has been going on for the last couple of months coming out of Wrestle Dream. This was my most anticipated match of the night from an in-ring standpoint. Will Ospreay, arguably the best in-ring performer in the world. Kyle Fletcher climbed the cage during his entrance, and he was waiting for Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay came out. Will Ospreay also climbed the cage, and the crowd chanting Ospreay's name. Absolutely love it. Will Ospreay's entrance is great. Both guys climb down from the cage, immediately start attacking each other. Loved it. Ospreay hits Stun Dog Millionaire. Fletcher countered and Oscutter rammed Ospreay into the steel cage. Ospreay was bleeding at this point. Fletcher took control. Ospreay came back with a springboard forearm. Ospreay rammed Fletcher into the cage. Standing Sky Twister on Fletcher for a 2 count. Fletcher's chest was bleeding at this point. Ospreay hit 5 chops. Fletcher hits a big boot and the Dragon Suplex. Fletcher hit a running kick in the corner. Ospreay catapulted Fletcher into the cage. Fletcher was bleeding from his head at this point. Ospreay rammed Fletcher's head into the cage. And then Ospreay hits a beautiful Cancun Tornado for a 2 count. Fletcher hits a great sit-out powerbomb for a 2 count. Fletcher kicked the back of Ospreay's head. Both guys traded kicks. Ospreay hit 2 forearms and a super kick. Great series of counters that resulted in Ospreay hitting a DDT and Kyle Fletcher hitting a brainbuster for a 2 count. Mark Davis comes out. He breaks the lock of the steel cage. Comes in. He's got a bag of weapons. Ospreay kicks the door into Davis to throw him out, and then he makes use of the weapons. Ospreay attacks Fletcher with a barbed wire baseball bat, and then Ospreay gives a shout out to Mick Foley. That was a pretty cool moment. Fletcher begged for mercy and then hit a low blow on Ospreay. Ospreay came back with a hidden blade and Stormbreaker. Mark Davis came into the cage. He was also bleeding. He locked in a sleeper on Will Ospreay. Ospreay hit a Poison Rana on Fletcher and a hidden blade with an assist from a steel chair on Mark Davis. Oscutter off the cage on Kyle Fletcher. That was beautiful. Ospreay wrapped barbed wire around his forearm and Fletcher tried to escape. Ospreay went after him. Kyle Fletcher used a screwdriver to attack Will Ospreay. Fletcher counted a Styles Clash and hit a Brainbuster and then a second Brainbuster on a chair. Fletcher brought out a bag of thumbtacks. Ospreay hit a Styles Clash on the thumbtacks. That was one of the sickest and most awesome things I have ever seen in the years that I have been watching professional wrestling. Fletcher tries to escape the cage again. Ospreay catches him, spikes Fletcher's head with the screwdriver, and then the best spot of the night. Spanish Fly off the cage by Will Ospreay. That may legitimately be the most awesome spot of the entire year. I gotta say, I love AEW's steel cage format where you can only win by pinfall or submission. Escaping the cage does nothing. Fletcher is yelling at Will Ospreay right now how much he hates him. He's just yelling, getting progressively more angry and angry. And then Will Ospreay hits a hidden blade and the Tiger Driver 91 for the win. This was phenomenal. This was a great match. This and the Hollywood ending to me are the two best matches of the night. The Hollywood ending had a better story in my opinion, but this match had the better in-ring work. I enjoyed what Fletcher and Ospreay delivered in this match. Both guys are great professional wrestlers. Will Ospreay to me is probably the best wrestler in the world right now. This was a great match and I really enjoyed it. The brutality, the violence, the story, everything about this was great. I really enjoyed this. This was an awesome match. We had a string of 3 very good matches. The Hollywood ending, Omega Takeshita, and now this. AEW produced 3 incredible back-to-back matches. And I wish this is where the pay-per-view ended, but unfortunately, I have to talk about the main event. Now, before talking about the actual main event match, I do want to make mention of something. There was a report that came out a few weeks ago that said that Tony Khan doesn't hold production meetings before Dynamite or Collision. He could have definitely used one. They were promoting the new Queen of the Ring movie, and one of the actresses from Queen of the Ring, she basically broke kayfabe live on pay-per-view. Tony Khan legitimately does not know how to run a wrestling promotion. Main event, Jon Moxley versus Adam Copeland for the AEW World Championship. This match has been building, and I use building in heavy quotations. It's coming out of AEW World's End. Adam Copeland in the lead up to this match took out the Death Riders. They had that tag team match at Grand Scam Australia. Adam Copeland came out first, made his entrance. He was all business. Crowd singing along to his theme song is great. Jon Moxley entered through the crowd. His theme song legitimately is the death of AEW. And as soon as these two were in the ring and the introductions were completed, man oh man, what a difference 5 years can make. Revolution 2020, Jericho versus Moxley for the world title. 5 years later, we get this. The life left the arena when this match started. This was the quietest the crowd were all night. This was the worst pay-per-view main event in AEW company history. The Death Rider storyline is awful. It needs to end as soon as possible. This storyline has been the death of AEW. No one cares. This storyline needs to end. When this first started at WrestleDream, I was willing to give it a chance. But now, it's gone on too long. This needs to end. Every metric of AEW is down. Live attendance is down. Fan investment is down. Everything is down. No one cares. End this story! I cannot tell you how much I hate the Death Rider storyline. This is one of the worst storylines I have ever seen play out in weekly professional wrestling. And I've been watching wrestling for almost 15 years. This is one of the worst storylines I have ever seen. And the fact that it's in the main event, and the fact that it's featured weekly on TV, and the fact that the world title is involved in this storyline. Everything about this is horrible, and it's bringing everything around it down. Up until this point, Revolution has been a very good show, but then this match happened, and legitimately, it's as if everything that was positive about this pay-per-view was thrown out the window. I'm not even gonna go over this match. I just do not care. The crowd was dead for the majority of this match. Adam Copeland and Jon Moxley, these guys both wrestled legit like they did not want to be there. There was a roll-up, and Bryce Remsburg was distracted. Bryce Remsburg, by the way, looked like a complete idiot during this match. So Bryce Remsburg comes back. Jon Moxley hits possibly the worst DDT I have ever seen in my entire life. The referee gets knocked down. I don't even remember what happened. Wheeler Yuta comes out. And on Dynamite, Jon Moxley disrespected Wheeler Yuta and Yuta walked away from him. Wheeler Yuta hitting the Busaiku knee on Jon Moxley, leading to Adam Copeland's win, would have been a great way to end this pay-per-view. But instead, he hits the Busaiku knee on Adam Copeland, continuing this garbage. Wheeler Yuta turning on Jon Moxley legitimately would have been the best thing for his character, but instead, they're waiting on it. So Jay White comes out, he accidentally hits Adam Copeland with the briefcase that has the World Championship. Jay White and Wheeler Yuta are brawling on the ramp. Adam Copeland hits 3 spears. The referee comes in, and I was hoping Adam Copeland would win and the show would go off the air, but instead, Christian Cage, he pulls the referee out. He hits Adam Copeland with the contract for a world title match. He cashes in. He hits a spear on Adam Copeland for a 2 count. He hits the kill switch on Adam Copeland. And then Jon Moxley comes in, locks in the bulldog choke on Christian Cage. And Christian Cage passes out. Jon Moxley retains the AEW World Championship, continuing this garbage. He exits through the crowd and the show goes off the air with Swerve hitting a Swerve stomp on Moxley. I waited up until now to talk about Revolution because they booked Adam Copeland versus Jon Moxley in a street fight this past Wednesday on Dynamite. The match that we got on Dynamite is the match that we should have gotten here at Revolution. And this should have been the only match between these 2 guys. Christian Cage, I've enjoyed the way Christian has been booked in AEW. His heel run as the Patriarch, some of the best work of his entire career and in all of AEW. At Revolution, all the good work that Christian did flushed down the toilet. He looked like the biggest idiot on the entire AEW roster at Revolution, completely wasting the contract, the world title opportunity, a great opportunity for Luchasaurus to come back in a great face run. Everything was completely wasted. Tony Khan in one shot killed Adam Copeland's momentum, completely killed Christian Cage's character, and continues to kill AEW by continuing this Death Rider storyline. It feels like Tony Khan, AEW, Jon Moxley, feels like they need an intervention. Tony Khan needs to step away from creative. And Jon Moxley, if he's the man steering the ship with this storyline, Jon Moxley should never have creative control ever again. This Death Rider storyline is awful. The story is terrible. No one has been built up. The audience does not care. You're losing fans week by week by week. Live attendance, live viewership, everything is down. Swerve Strickland is the #1 contender. If it's me, I'm booking Swerve to win the world title at Dynasty, but that's not gonna happen. This past Dynamite, Will Ospreay announced that he will be entering the Owen Hart Foundation tournament. If you're gonna hold off until All In for Will Ospreay versus Jon Moxley for the AEW World Championship, All In is almost 4 months away. Tony Khan, if you're gonna continue this storyline for another 4 months, you are out of your mind. This storyline has to end. Put the championship on Swerve. Put the championship on literally anybody on the roster. Take it away from Jon Moxley and end this storyline. What is the purpose of the Death Rider storyline anyway? They wanted to reshape AEW. Oh, they've definitely done that. This is the worst it's ever been. This main event, the worst pay-per-view main event in AEW pay-per-view history. Tony Khan should be ashamed of himself that this is what he presented to the world. I've been a fan of AEW since day one. This is the worst it's ever been. I cannot emphasize how much I hate this. This was awful. This was terrible. Before this was legitimately a 9 out of 10 pay-per-view. After this match, forget about it. What a horrible, horrible way to have a show go off the air. This was absolute garbage. Tony Khan, Adam Copeland, Jon Moxley, they all should be ashamed of themselves that this is what they produced. This was terrible. This was bad. This was just awful. In any case, minus the main event, the rest of Revolution was a phenomenal show. The main event just brought the entire show down for me. I legitimately could not believe what I saw to close out this show. This was a phenomenal show up until the main event. The main event, worst main event in AEW company history. That is all for today. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. You can follow me on Instagram at Said_2000, and I will see you on the next video. Till then, take care.